Hey everyone, Nick Scales here, and we're doing a little bit of a different approach today. We're doing a landlord roundtable here on the real estate plate, and I wanted to take this opportunity to give everybody the ability to. Looks like I got a little bit of echo. Sorry about that, people. But going back to what we were saying is we're going to have a live discussion with a bunch of landlords in regards to some of the mandates and laws that we're dealing with, and the harsh mandates by the eviction moratorium, and kind of give everybody a different perspective and a better understanding of how this is affecting every single side and every single component to the equation. As I'm saying that, I am going to start admitting everybody in to the group. Right now we have 5 landlords that have joined us. I'm going to do a sound test with everybody just to make sure that you all have proper audio and are able to speak. Welcome everybody. We might have some more people joining us by the stream, but
There's so much about soccer.
somebody to introduce Rosa and Frank. Do you want to introduce yourselves for one?
Depending on the morning.
There's only 6 people on this.
Have audio? Can you hear us?
I could hear you perfectly. Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Welcome. Rosa, Frank, where are you from?
We live in Huntington. We have a building in Ridgewood, Queens.
Okay, so you're very similar to me. I live in Sayat. I'm dealing with stuff in Queens as well.
Oh, howdy, neighbor.
Close, right? Small world. Rosanna, can you hear us? I don't see any.
Hi, how are you?
How are you doing, Rosanna? Welcome.
Good. Thank you.
We have somebody by the name of Dean, somebody SL, and somebody Imran. If
Yes.
you want to do a sound check to see if you could be heard properly.
Imran here. Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you perfectly. Welcome.
Would you like me to introduce myself?
Sure. So let's get to one second. Let's just make sure everybody's audio is working properly, and then
Okay.
we'll do introductions.
I think there's a lot of background song. Like, I think we should all mute, and whoever is speaking, just
I will definitely start doing that as well.
yeah.
That's
There's
great.
a lot of background. Yeah.
So I'm going to handle muting and unmuting people if necessary. But let's actually go down the line. Let's start with Rosa and Frank. We got a brief introduction. I know that you're landlords. You have property in Richwood. Has this eviction moratorium been dealing with you in a very particular way? Been affected in the way other people have?
Actually, we've been in court with a tenant for 4 years, and they haven't been paying rent for 3 years. And so the COVID really doesn't affect us, but in the same sense it does, because now we can't move on because I guess May 1st is when the evictions start.
So basically, you're caught in the same kind of limbo that a lot of other people have. Once this eviction moratorium was put in place, a lot of us were in the situation of already being in the process of evictions, not necessarily for even non-payment. It could be other reasons too. It could be nuisance. It could be holdovers. It could be a lot of different situations that we're dealing with. But you're caught in limbo because the courts are not hearing these cases. Is that correct?
We were scheduled for trial last March or April when this happened. We actually just went back virtually last Tuesday.
We lost a little bit of audio.
Who has the lease, actually passed away in November, not due to COVID, but has the children living there, so they're trying for succession.
So basically, you're stuck in a situation where not even your actual tenant is holding the place. So somebody that's taking successor's rights or something to that effect is holding up your apartment. Wow, I lost the audio. I can't hear anybody. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Nick. I can't hear them though.
Okay, let me see what was the issue right here, because their audio seems to be working from my end. Why don't we jump into Rosanna? Rosanna, since you just spoke, let's hear a little bit about your situation right now.
Mine is a holdover case where the tenant was asked to leave for all the reasons that a landlord is allowed to evict for. My health has declined. I need the space for myself. My sister was supposed to move in, and I have major construction that's supposed to be happening that will actually eliminate the apartment. And I have to open up all my walls to upgrade all my electricity. I have an old, not an old, but a Sandy home that the former owner never did their Sandy due diligence. So when I applied for permits to do work, that's when it was all discovered, and it became my burden to obtain Sandy permits, believe it or not. So I have all the Sandy work that needs to be done where the electrical and other things in the house are compromised, and it was starting to be problematic. I explained to her that she was going to have to leave. She won't leave. So I do have I had a March 3rd court date, which of course has now been adjourned to July 31st. Believe it, people, July 31st here in Nassau County. But I do have an ejectment action against her. She was served with that petition 2 weeks ago now, and that trial is due to happen the beginning of April. But she did call the town on me. New development, Nick. She did call the town on me, and they came the other day and issued me violations, which basically now gives me almost an order to show cause. I know that's not what it's called, but for lack of a better way to describe it, they're making me eliminate the apartment, which I had permits to do anyway, which now gives my attorney more reason to argue that I have these violations and these walls have to be opened and she can't be here. So she just won't leave.
So there's a actual reason. First of all, you were working within your rights prior to the eviction moratorium to be able to evict the tenant.
That's correct.
That halted, obviously. And in the meantime, there's actually a situation of safety hazards because of the Sandy violations that were put in place.
Correct.
Which even more of a reason why the person needs to go. And they're basically telling you that they can't. So let's say in a theoretical situation, knock on wood, and we don't have a situation like this, but let's say there was something that went wrong with the home because of the safety violations. Somebody got hurt. Whose responsibility is that? They're the ones telling you they can't get the work done.
There is plausibility that I can actually hold her liable because she has now blown a circuit breaker many, many, many times that has been replaced, and my electrician will not replace it again because it is indicative of a short on the line. And she also, out of spite, was running the oven 24/7 and blew my 220 line. So she has no stove, no kitchen. She basically only has electric in a third of her apartment, and she still won't leave. She has been told by the police, because she called them to say that I took her electric away from her. But when I explained to the officers what had transpired, clearly they tried to explain it to her for 40 minutes. She argued with them for 40 minutes. She argued with the police, with them trying to explain it was a safety issue. So if something were to go wrong and I don't feel safe, I don't sleep in my house. I don't sleep well at all because I'm so afraid that something is going to go wrong. There is plausibility that I can hold her liable.
Yeah, but that doesn't make you feel any better about it.
No, it doesn't. But these are all things that are being explained to her attorney. Her attorney is actually her boss. She works for a ticket attorney for the last 30 years. He's kind of a joke. But he's really not understanding the gravity of the situation. And because she feels that it's untruthful, she just refuses to leave, even though now I have all these violations against me as well. So stay tuned, folks, because something's going to have to give pretty soon.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be monitoring your story. I mean, there's a way more to your story than what we're talking about at this moment. And
Yep.
it's a lot more involved and complicated. And we'll dive into that a little bit later on in this segment. But
Sure.
this is only the beginning to your story.
That is correct.
Imran, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, everyone.
Hello, Imran.
Hello.
Imran, can you hear me?
I think he muted himself again.
I think so too. I'm trying to ask to unmute right now.
Oh,
There
I'm
we go.
sorry. Can you hear me?
We got you.
Oh, I think you might have missed the first part. Let me reintroduce myself. My name is Imran Ishaq. I'm originally from Guyana. I migrated in 2014. We bought a house here in 2019 in Queens. In June of 2020, I was doing work in my yard. It was 9:30 in the day, and the tenants claim I was disturbing them. So what happened? They physically attacked me, verbally abused me. The guy ran towards me, started throwing punches at me. They were all abusing me. It was three of them. They were just cursing, and I have video. I can forward it to each of you individually what happened. And they stopped paying rent from that day. You know, I scared for my parents and myself. So I installed cameras all around because I fear for my life. If somebody can attack you when there are 15 witnesses around, you know the fear of not having that second level of security eyes to watch. And the thing is, we bought that house. I never had a chance to move in, but now I have these tenants who have stopped paying. In June, that's just few months after we bought this property, they stopped paying rent, and I'm living somewhere else and paying rent, and they are living free at my home. My parents live there. They abuse my parents very often. They leave the windows open in the winter so the boiler work 24 hours. They smoke weed all day. They litter the yards, and a whole host of complaints. When the weather is good, they have outdoor party in front of the house with music and smoke weed. You know, it's a long list of complaints, and we can't do anything.
Well, that sounds. Let me try to actually understand what you're telling me. You bought the house
October 2019.
October 2019 with the intentions of moving there at one point.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's correct.
So in this process, this is a two-family house?
Yeah, two-family, yeah.
So you're pretty much free market. You don't have registration and stabilization kind of situation, rent control situation. You should have been able to give proper notice and be able to move into the place without any issue, correct?
Yes, yes,
In a
that's
perfect
correct.
world.
I lost you there for a second.
I'm saying in a perfect world, you
Yeah.
should have been able to, with proper notice, been able to ask the tenant to move out and not cause you any issues as far as getting into your home.
Yeah.
That all ended as soon as I guess the tenant showed some resistance and stopped paying you, right?
So here's something I didn't mention. There are
Okay.
two tenants there, the first floor and the second floor. I had asked the second floor give them a proper notice via a lawyer. But what had happened, this tenant, he has lived there for 11 years. None of the previous landlords ever had any issue with him. So after I realized, these people every day is a new issue with them. They were cursed on the neighbors, complain to us, disrespect us. I think, this floor, I changed my mind and decide, this is the floor, especially in June when they attacked me, I said this is the floor has to go, not the second floor, because the second floor, that tenant there, he is always never late on with his rent, has always been respectful to landlord, doesn't have complaints, small issue, he doesn't complain at all. So I said, the first floor has to go now, these people, because I can't deal with this aggressive attitude all the time, every single day. They were acting as the landlord. When we bought that house, they're always, giving us instruction, don't do this in your yard, cut down this tree, do this, move this here, as if they're the owners. Every day is like a different issue with them. So in June, after they attacked me, I said, I went to my lawyer immediately and I issued an eviction letter that was effective August 31.
Now, I don't want to get too sensitive, and I understand this is a very personal matter. How exactly did they attack you?
So I called them for courtesy. It was a Saturday. I said, I'm going to come do some work, and it was 9:30 in the morning. I said, I'm going to come do some work. When I don't live there. So I went to Home Depot, collect some materials. And when I arrived in front of the home, they were all in front by the front deck cursing down my parents very loudly. When I tell you, you can hear them 3 blocks away. And I'll send you that video on Facebook, message, in a private message. I'll send you. So I was there listening and recording, so I said, because this was happening, it's not normal. Like I've never seen this kind of, animalistic behavior before. So that's why I was actually shocked people can actually behave like this, So I start to record, and at the time, I was looking at the mother and daughter cursing me, and the son, who was like 280 pounds, pretty heavy guy, just ran up to me and started throwing punches, just like that.
Well, that sounds very similar to another situation we have with another one of our group, and he was actually at the rally as well, where for everybody that doesn't know about Mario's situation, Mario Kaiser, he was another tenant that was attacked by his tenant, and the tenant was actually arrested as well, and still he can't do anything. And he lives in the house with the actual tenants, which makes it even more of an awkward situation because they need to run across each other on a daily basis to get into their homes. You definitely have. My sympathy is definitely with you as far as your scenario. It's definitely an awful one, and we're definitely going to get more into your specific situation and try to get deeper and to give everybody understanding of what you're dealing with.
Okay.
But I still want to continue with everybody's introductions and want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak, and then we'll get into everybody's individual situation a little more deeply further along in the segment. Rose and Frank, can you hear me now? Can you put the audio, because we never got the full introduction from you.
Can you hear us now?
I could hear you, yes.
So how far back should I go?
Okay, so let's rewind and give a little bit of a background of where you were at. You are a Long Island resident with a property over in Ridgewood, Queens. You have a situation of a non-paying tenant prior to our eviction moratoriums going back 3 years. Is that right? See, I'm pretty good. I got a pretty decent memory. I'm trying to put mental notes on everybody as fast as I can and try to place everybody in the right format. So if I screw up, please correct me. So in this process of trying to evict the tenants, we got hit with a moratorium, and you're basically stuck in a situation of limbo of not being able to do anything. In the meantime, your tenant hasn't paid, or have they been paying? Has your tenant made any attempts to try to pay or make good on any of the back payments? Nothing.
No, nothing.
So,
And it didn't start off as a non-payment, it started as a nuisance. So basically they had people living in their apartments that didn't belong there, and just constant fighting with the tenant.
What exactly was there? So basically they were fighting with other tenants, harassing them, that kind of a thing, right?
Now, this is a rent stabilized building, so there's other things that we need to follow. But my mom lives in the building. She is the actual owner. But so just basically they damaged the apartment and constant complaining of things that we have violations like crazy in that apartment. Drug dealing in front of the house in the hallway. So we had to move on and bring them to court. And it started off as a nuisance case, which it still is a nuisance case, but added on top of that is that they haven't paid rent. Now, like I said, the lease owner passed away in November. So the children are living there.
So that's the one part of the component that I actually didn't include in my summary. So the people that are actually in your space right now are not even the people that are the lessees. They're basically almost like taking succession of this apartment and riding the wave up until they get kicked out or something to that on those lines, right?
Is that, I have a question about that, out of curiosity, if you don't mind. Is that legal, number one, period? Or is it just legal because it's a rent controlled apartment?
Well, I don't believe it's a rent control apartment. Frank, please correct me. It's a stabilized apartment, not a rent control.
Or a stabilized, okay, so
there's
what?
there's a couple of differences between being in a stabilized apartment and a control apartment. In rent control apartment, there is a situation where you have successor rights to that unit.
Oh,
If,
okay.
in other words, if somebody is in that unit for 2 or more years prior to that person passing away, or whatever the case is, they're not in that apartment, and for one reason or another, they do under law have certain methods of being able to stay in there. They're not infinite, their methods, but they do have some methods of being able to stay there. In stabilization, not exactly the same thing. They don't have the same kind of rights to be able to take over that property. And I wish there was an attorney that jumped on with us, because obviously I'm not an attorney and I don't have all the answers from it. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I've had enough experience and enough dealings on very similar situation to Rosa and Frank, along with others on this platform, and it's something that I know a little bit. I know a little bit about a little bit. So let's just leave it at that.
I appreciate that. Thank you for that. It was a curious question. Thank you.
So basically, Rosa and Frank, we got a very similar situation that's a nightmare that many people just like you are sharing. All right, let's go down the line to the next person. D, are you there? Let's see if we could get something from D as far as being able to speak. I guess D, he or she. I'm not sure if it's a he or she. Either.
He's still on mute. He just did in the chat that he has no mic. So I don't know if
He
that
has no
means he's
mic.
muted or.
Okay, so D, I'm just to let you know, since you don't have a mic, I understand that you're not going to be able to speak or be seen by video. But if you did have anything you wanted to contribute through the chat or the commentary, and you wanted us to discuss it and address it, please feel free to be able to put anything in there. I don't want anybody to feel that they're being left out just because they don't have a mic. So I will promise you that I will address everything that I can through the commentary. And if I miss it and somebody else sees something, please bring it to my attention, because like I said, I'm trying to coordinate it, being admin and being the person that's conducting this segment all at the same time. So I will do my best to be able to get to everybody. We just had a couple more people. Welcome. Cindy Aria is another person. Since you just jumped in, I was about to finish up introduction. So why don't we go to Cindy? Cindy, would you like to introduce yourself? Let's see if she has a mic. Hopefully. Okay. How about Aria? The Aria or Area, if I'm pronouncing the name wrong. Would you like to say a little bit about your situation? Okay. So there's not going to be, we're going to have a segment of people that are not really wanting to speak, but they do want to be part of the group, and that's okay. You know, the more people that we have involved, regardless if they're speaking or not, just adds to the volume of people that are involved and wanting to get themselves more informed by other people that are seeking having same kind of situations. And I'm just going to give everybody one last chance to introduce yourself before we dive into a couple of the topics that I think are super important for us to discuss this day. Raquel, welcome to the
Thank you.
Oh, look, we got a person with audio. Perfect. And video. Look at this. We actually have another person with a video. So Raquel, did you want to introduce yourself to the group and maybe discuss a little bit about what you're facing right now?
Hi. Okay. Hold on. Where did my video go? I had. Hold on.
I just noticed.
Okay.
Video on too. I'll get to her.
Okay, my video's on. Okay, I got everything. Okay, so I live in Brooklyn. I own a property in Brooklyn by Georgetown, and I rented the apartment last December, before 2019, to a woman and her child, a single mother and her child. From the beginning, before even COVID, she was giving us a hard time with the rent. And then since April 1st, she has not paid a penny. I know she's collecting unemployment, and I hired a private investigator, and she's collecting unemployment, and she may even be collecting from work. But she keeps saying that she doesn't have money, but she's getting everyday food delivered to her house. She goes 3 times a week shopping for groceries and come back with like 6 bags. She gets packages from Amazon delivered at least 3 times a week. So she's living the life. And not only that, but she lives upstairs from me, and she's making my life miserable with loud music and running around. Her kid is jumping, and she has guests coming in and sleeping over all the time. She's doing whatever she wants. And I cannot say anything. I called the police a few times for noise. They don't do anything. They just tell her to lower it. And as soon as they leave, she makes it worse. So I'm really having a hard time. And I don't know what to do. I hired a lawyer. We got an index but no court case. And he's just sitting there waiting for the court. We sent her the 14-day notice when she wasn't paying. We sent her the 5-day. We sent her 30-day termination because her lease expired at the end of November. So she's living without a lease. And, at one point, I did not even touch her heat. And she complained that the heat was off, that I turned it off. She called the HPD. She called the police. And when the police came, I showed them that the boiler was working. And for a few days before, when she kept complaining that there was no heat, I kept videotaping the boiler working. So she's doing whatever. One day she called the police when there was no water at all down the block because they were doing work for the thing. She called the police. And the police called me, threatening me that if I didn't turn her water on, they would arrest me. And I said, but there's no water in the whole block. You can ask the neighbors. And finally, they asked the neighbors, they checked, and then they told her not to keep calling the police for no reason. But that doesn't mean anything. She's doing whatever she wants, not paying rent. But the worst part about it is the fact that she's making my life miserable. I'm staying out, actually driving around, so I don't listen to her loud music, and I don't listen to everything because it's really frustrating. So I'm out sometimes till midnight until I know that she's not even going to sleep, but at least most of the evening, I don't have to deal with it. The lawyer says he can't do anything. And on top of it, this woman has a criminal record. She came in through a broker, and the broker didn't do her job, and I trusted the broker. And she has a criminal record, but they won't arrest her because of COVID. So I have a lot of issues.
I'm just going to make a point of bringing something up right now, because you did mention something about a broker not doing their job. And this is very important that you understand and fully taken for now and for all future reasons of dealing with a leasing situation. Because I actually have a license and I've done a lot of leasing for myself. I personally have stopped taking on a lot of rental type of transactions, unless it's a direct client of mine or somebody that's very familiar to me. I've stuck to only sales. But the one thing that I have noticed coming in from both sides, because I do the management as well, and I bring in brokers to help me out as well on a lot of my rental units, is never take for granted that just because a broker or an agent ran the test, don't ever take their word for it. Ask them to show you the reports, ask them to show you what they came up with and what the reasons are for them qualifying or not qualifying the tenant. This is a major mistake that happens by a lot of landlords, and it's happened to me in the past as well, because even though I'm in the business myself, oftentimes, because I'm busy working with other things in my life, I figured, all right, let me just give it to a broker to do it for me. And they don't vet the proper way. So I don't want to harp in on the situation that it was tough on you with, because this happens to a lot of people all the time. But you need to make sure that you double check everybody. Don't ever take word for it.
Sorry, she did bring, because I used that broker when I was looking for an apartment before getting this place, and she charged me $30 to do a credit check. So she told me she was going to be doing the same thing with the tenants, with any tenant she was going to bring. Meanwhile, when I was having issues and I found out about this woman having a criminal record, I told her, I said, you brought me a credit check. Why didn't you? She goes, no, she didn't let me run a credit check on her. She gave me something that a friend of hers had run. And she never told me that at the beginning. That's why I said that she lied to me, because she brought me a fake credit check.
That's awful.
Something that could have been altered.
I'm definitely sure you would have been able to avoid some of the situation on that. And it seems like you have another one of these nightmare situations, just like many others in this room. I'm going to give Aria a chance to introduce herself as well. I see she has a video up as well. Aria, would you like to introduce yourself and kind of give everybody an understanding of what your story is?
Yeah, so I am based in the Western New York area. I had really planned on becoming a landlord, but that's, I guess, kind of not really relevant right now. I have tenants. What's that?
Not so glamorous, right?
Well, I'm dealing with a bit of a squatter situation and a contentious divorce proceeding. So, kind of a unique situation. But regardless of that, my tenants are not affected financially by COVID at all. They have just decided that they want to buy my house at half of the market value. So they have stated that they're not going to leave until police come to physically remove them. So I'm just kind of powerless right now to stop them. So I've been pursuing a ejection action against them. I have a preliminary conference or a preliminary hearing that's coming up in March. So kind of just looking to network with other landlords and see what arguments other attorneys might be using in some of these cases. So
Good luck. That's coming up. Good luck to you on that.
yeah, thank you. It's definitely keeping my fingers crossed. I hope that I get a judge who is somewhat reasonable. I mean, I'm telling you, these people are just they're crazy. I have in writing from them that the reason they're not going to leave is because they need my big master bedroom to fit their king-sized bed. I'm like, well, that's not a reason to not move, get a different bed. So
To not move and not pay at the same time, right?
no, I mean, they were more than happy to pay, but the issue for me is that I can't have two mortgages in my name. I don't have
Understood.
that
Yeah.
kind of credit line. So I literally have to sell that house. And nobody is buying right now with tenants in place for obvious reasons. So I had to stop accepting rent in order to get the holdover eviction. But then with SS 9114, that obviously threw all of my holdover eviction plans out the window. So
Isn't that a ridiculous law that's in place that you need to stop collecting rent when you're giving somebody proper notice to move out by holdover or something along those lines?
well,
That-
the whole law, not only that, but I mean, SEPA in general is just ridiculous. So I'm glad that it's beginning to get some kind of traction, that it's not constitutional. I'm hoping that this that the Texas judge that just said that it was not constitutional, that gives New York grounds to like start pursuing and dismantling SEPA, because that is absolutely more intense than the federal eviction ban.
We're going to keep our fingers crossed that actually was just the first, the beginning to somehow trying to rectify all these laws that were put in place, because we have a situation where everybody clearly knows that what is happening to the landlord community and the housing community is completely unlawful, and it's very directed and almost almost discriminatory to a certain section or sector of the workforce or economy. So I think it's one of those situations where we are going to stay tuned. I think it's a beginning. And I think that every state, one by one, will start to realize what's going on. And hopefully it happens and it gets settled and rectified in a way where it's going to keep people as whole as possible. Because I guarantee you, I promise you, everybody in this room is not going to be made completely whole. And that's not just because I'm trying to be pessimistic and trying to put doom and gloom. But the reality is, even if you got totally financially whole after this whole situation, the psychological warfare and the mental exhaustion that we've all endured during this time period will never be it will never be dealt with in the proper way.
Restored. It'll never be restored. You're right.
Absolutely not. So, it's one thing for the financial point of view, which I don't feel that they're going to financially make us whole completely. Again, that's my personal perspective. But all I'm asking for at this point is to make us as whole as possible. But we'll see. Stay tuned. I think the Texas situation was a very important one, and it's one that everybody needs to be really paying attention to, and groups need to harp on to the same kind of scenario. Joseph, welcome to the group. Did you want to give an introduction to yourself and possibly let everybody know about your situation?
Hello. Actually, I'm on my son's account.
Okay.
My name is Jessica. I have a rental property in Lockport and he hasn't paid any rent since COVID. It's like 3,500 and that's not including late fees. And he just bought a new car. So he's not hurting for money, but he refuses to pay and he knows I can't evict him. Or well, he knows I can evict him, but not evict him and get my money at the same time. From my understanding.
From your understanding, probably from what you're saying, that sounds about right, and it's very similar to what a lot of other people are dealing with at this moment. Unfortunately, you know, I feel like I'm being repetitive, and I feel like I'm a broken record as far as saying the same thing over and over again, because we're all really facing the same kind of scenario, except for the fact that everybody's personal situation is altered in different ways. Rosanna has her own story. You have your own story. Raquel has her own story. I have my own story. We all have our own personal situations that are holding us back and causing us financial and mental grief. But at the same time, the one thing that's unified, that we're all being dealt with in a very unlawful manner. Sharon Klein, would you like to introduce yourself and let everybody know about your situation?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. I was frantically looking for the link to this meeting at 5 minutes to 3 and finally found it. So thanks for letting me in a bit late. I'm a real estate broker also, and a landlord, and I also manage property for a bunch of clients in the Mid-Hudson Valley. Fortunately for myself, my tenants are paying. They're hardworking, honest people. They see me as a person and not, you know, a demon. So they understand their responsibility. But we do have a tenant, a non-paying tenant in one of the units that we manage that hasn't paid in almost a year. And he had chronic delinquencies before this happened, and this just gave him an excuse to stop paying. He lives with his son and mother, and they're both on public assistance, so they do receive money. And we have tried very hard to work with him to take partial payments, to at least pay the HOA dues and the taxes, and just to even, you know, just to give him a reduced payment to pay our operating costs on the unit. And he's totally refused to communicate. So there's nothing that we could do at this point. And, you know, honestly, even though I have good paying tenants for myself, I do, you know, live in fear every day that one day somebody's going to wake up and decide that they don't have to pay me. And we had another one of my tenants said, you know, my friends have told me to stop paying rent. You know, they said that I don't really have to pay because there's nothing you could do about it. So the word is like almost out on the street from tenants to tenants. They're telling each other not to pay because they all think that they're going to get a free ride. So this is all very concerning. And like you said, it's something that causes me a lot of stress and anxiety. And it's this psychological warfare that's going on. And that's my big concern. So thanks for letting me share. I'm really glad this group is here. And I hope that we could together make a difference.
Well, thank you for sharing your story, and at the same time, you know, what you basically just relayed back to everybody is part of that whole cancel rent kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And people basically, you know, give almost like a domino effect of, you know, we basically have a situation where a couple of people are getting away with it. They're telling others about how they're getting away with it, and it's contagious. And unfortunately, they're all protected at this moment. So, you know, it goes back to that Texas situation where we need to really stay tuned and really follow how that's gonna break out for everybody. Now, before we get into anything else, I just wanted to make sure that everybody had their chance to introduce themselves. Did I miss anybody? If I did miss anybody, please speak up right now. Otherwise, I will
Can
start.
I ask a question?
Sure.
Sorry. I just met, well, I was having I had a lawyer doing the non-payment case, which I have an index number and no court date, which is going to take. But I met with I read in the landlord group about the ejectment action, and I met with a lawyer that I was recommended to by somebody from this group. I met with him on Friday, and even though he said there is no real guarantee, but the fact is that it will go straight to the Supreme Court rather than having the civil court and the trial and waiting for for the courts to even open or anything. So we could start this ejectment process, and even if it takes 6 months, by then the evictions hopefully will be in effect and it can be done. I just wanted to know if anybody had heard about this or had experience or knows of somebody who had experience with this, and if it's really worth putting in the money to pay for this thing.
I believe Rosanna actually
But
has
the problem is that it would cancel out the other thing I have right now. It cancels out the non-payment court case that I have if I decide to go with the ejectment.
Well, I see Rosanna raising her hand. Did you want to interject?
Yeah, Raquel, I think we may have talked on Messenger. I did start an ejectment action. My tenant was delivered the petition just about 2 weeks ago now, and I have a trial date set for early April. But I have not withdrawn my holdover case. I have them going congruently, which my attorney tells me I absolutely can do. And for me, the ejectment action is just additional insurance that if for some reason this moratorium continues or goes beyond a certain date, I'm still guaranteed this lady is going to get the hell out of my house. So that is why I did it. It was for the extra insurance for myself.
Right,
I
but-
needed it.
But my lawyer told me I have to cancel one. I cannot have two things going on.
I
at
don't know
the
what
same
the
time.
rules are. Mine was a holdover case, not a non-payment case. So
That's it.
I was told I could have both of them running congruently, which was fine.
Mhm.
So I don't
Maybe
know.
with
you
a
know, the
holdover you can.
specifications. I don't
Maybe
know.
with a
So,
holdover you can.
and I do have two different attorneys. The attorney representing me in Supreme Court with the ejectment is completely different entity than the attorney that's representing me in civil court. But my civil case was just moved from March 3rd to July 31st, which is unacceptable in the conditions that I'm in with my health, number one, and number two, with the safety issues that I have, and now with the town having given violations. I don't even know how this person is still here. So we have, I'm counting down the days and praying, just praying. I pray for all of us every day.
As do we all.
I mean,
Thank
maybe
you,
it's because
Rosanna.
of non-payment.
I'm sorry, Raquel?
Maybe if the non-payment cannot be done at the same time as the ejectment. My lawyer, when I met with this lawyer on Friday, he was wondering why my lawyer did the non-payment and did not do the holdover. But at the beginning, we did the non-payment before her lease expired. I think the holdover is after the lease expires. And he told me that I had more of a chance of getting anything with the non-payment than with the holdover. So we didn't do the holdover.
That's actually the thing I'm hearing from a lot of attorneys. They're taking each individual case and they're picking and choosing which of the methods that they could go for the quickest eviction is out there, and they basically push and try to take that approach more than any other. The other thing I wanted to make a point of letting everybody know is, just like we're all in limbo right now, trying to figure out what exactly is going on, there's a lot of attorneys out there that really are not clear on how to be able to go forward. So I want to make absolutely sure that, yes, you are going to an attorney for guidance. And that's why they are there to help us, like with all these legal issues. However, we need to really understand that they're learning on the job, and we need to stay as informed as possible on our end to point things out to our attorneys. Even though they might be great attorneys, they could still miss something. We need to make a point of being as knowledgeable as possible and help guide them to give us the best opportunity to success. Because plenty of people know there's some attorneys that are horrible even without this eviction moratorium, and they those are not exactly the greatest attorneys to have. But you have the attorneys that are very competent and very good at going by the book on everything on a daily basis, and this just screwed them up as far as trying to get some kind of reasonable results. So I definitely advise everybody that yes, you're going to go to the attorney, you're going to rely on them for legal help the way I do and many others do, but at the same time, stay as informed as possible, read up as much as possible. If you're not able to read up on it, I'll give you the recommendations that I used to do for my parents. My parents were immigrants that started on this country, and they couldn't really understand the laws that much. They couldn't really read that much stuff. Have your kids read and help you with it. They do whatever you can to stay as informed as possible. It's super important, because you might catch something. You might catch that one little detail, that one little speck that is so super important to your case, and that your lawyer, your attorney doesn't catch on to. Because don't forget, besides having your case, they have other hundreds or maybe thousands of other cases that they're dealing with simultaneously, and things fall between the cracks. So you're working as a team right now with your attorneys. Make sure that you are in constant communication and do the best you can. So like I said, I'm not bashing attorneys in any way right now, because we definitely need them, especially in this state. You can't do it on your own unless you own the property directly. If you own it on the LLC, you're going to have to have an attorney no matter what. But just make sure that you're on it. You stay on top of it as much as possible. And what everybody here is doing by going out to landlord groups and putting up the posts and the articles and hearing feedback from other people as well is super important, as far as trying to get yourselves more informed and more on the ball as far as what is going on.
Next.
Yes.
I just wanted to say I have learned so much from this group. I'm just a residential, landlord, just needed to rent the space out. The space was originally my father's. My father passed away. I was in dire straits. I rented out the apartment, really not knowing what I was getting into. And now here I am. So I have learned a lot from the people in this group, and I am so eternally grateful for what I have learned from them. So definitely, scroll through and read. I'm not saying on a daily basis, I do, but you will learn a lot. But Nick, I think there was some comments from Dee, who doesn't have a mic. I saw a few come up, so I don't know if you want to read his comments just out of courtesy.
Absolutely will. Let me see what I missed out on.
Thank you.
All right. Let's get back here. Sometimes it's hard because I'm actually trying to go on the commentary board of not only through the Zoom situation, I'm also going through the YouTube.
That's why I'm watching for you.
You're the best. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So let's see. Let me read through your whole thing. So this is a 3-unit. You got to catch them in the first 10 days. Thank you. Okay, after 30 days, the squatter gets rights. Okay, we got into that a little bit. And going forward, we will all have to be on top of our pre-quals. That's actually, something we should have had in place from before. Now, Dee did put out the link for Under One Roof. And for area, if you're looking on the chat, you do have that link for the Under One Roof organization. And that's actually something that, if anybody knows Rich Tyson, he's heavily involved with the Under One Roof organization, and it's been helping a lot of landlords, especially in upstate. So it's something that you definitely want to be able to looking into and getting help from. And HSTPA changed landlord tenant law forever. Okay, in the chances of sounding absolutely ignorant, what does HSTPA stand for?
I'm glad I didn't ask.
Does anybody know what that means?
I'm assuming that's from the 2019 series of laws that New York State passed. Does
Yeah.
anyone else know?
I
Yeah, and
believe that's
tenant
correct. I
protection,
don't know.
the Housing Tenant Protection Act, is that what it?
Yeah.
I know
yeah.
what it is. I just don't know what the initials all stand for. I know the last three are Tenant Protection Act, but it's something good for people to actually know. So I think I got to all the comments, and if I see any more, I'm going to definitely get on there. Angela, I did see that you jumped in onto the stream, and if you had anything that you wanted to add and introduce yourself to the group with, please take this moment to do so. I know that you do have Mike, because I heard that dog as soon as you got on there, so I know that you're able to talk.
Hi. Thank you so much for I'm sorry I'm late. I just I'm in a loud place, so that's why I muted myself. But whatever feedback, whatever information you're sharing, it's going to be very helpful to me. I'm just kind of getting so impatient with this whole process, and it's really a nightmare for me personally. And I just feel like my hands are tied, and it's really, being in this group is very helpful, and it gives you support, which we all need. So, I appreciate everyone's support.
Is your specific situation similar to everybody else's, or is there something
I have a
that's happening with you?
I have a 2-family home, and I rent the one of the units, and my tenant is violating every aspect of her lease. She's causing me she's very behavioral. She's a behavioral disturbance. She's she has a salon in the apartment. She's invited people, like the whole apartment has turned into a beauty parlor, and she's not paying her rent. And
she's actually running a business out of her apartment?
Yeah. And she is basically not paying her rent. She is throwing my mail, throws garbage. I mean, it just doesn't end. It's like, makes noise, throws pans into the ceiling. I can't, it's so terrible that I can't even I don't want to live in my house. I was thinking of selling it. That's how, and I have a lawyer, but the lawyer is, couldn't do anything for 2 months now. So I think, I have a non-payment pending since like October. And now since her lease expired, I have a holdover that's going to be filed this week. So, unless she presents and signs the COVID hardship letter, then again, my hands are tied. So, and now I think she's trying to rent. She's illegally sublets the apartment. She has it on Airbnb. I have kids, so it's like a safety issue too. It's really bad.
I have a question for you, Angela. During this time period when we were under lockdown and we had very severe mandates on many businesses, hair salons included, was she still operating that hair?
She was. Yeah, she was.
Did you notify the authorities about that while that was happening?
So I called the Department of Health, and I think they did come, like cosmetology. My lawyer said I could call the Department of Buildings, but I don't know, like that's another thing. And then I'm going to get a violation. So I didn't know if I should do that, because I heard that I'm going to get a violation for what she's doing. So I just felt like, what good is that going to do for me? But I did call the Department of Health, and I think I don't think she's operating with a license. So I don't know. I don't know what happened from that call. I don't know what transpired. I know she's still working, but I think after that, I have a feeling, because I'm like, I got a ring. I'm like watching. I think it's less people coming in than it was before. So I don't know what happened, but it's still, people are still coming to do their hair and things like that.
The only reason I brought that up is because during the time of extreme lockdowns and business restrictions that we had, a lot of the violation kind of situations kind of went by the wayside in in um in a swap for COVID regulations. And they were really going after everybody that was violating the COVID situation. I mean, look how many businesses that were viable businesses that were real brick and mortar storefront shops that got bombarded for violating these violations. I'm just kind of thinking that that would have shut her down permanently at that point. But I guess if the attorney told you that you could have had other ramifications, it gives you caution at that point.
You know what, they they said I called 311 and they said I'm gonna end up with a violation. So then I said to myself, what good is that gonna be to me? By the time I evict her, I could have a violation, and I was just a little nervous. I really didn't know what to do. But someone suggested call the Department of Health, which I did.
Understood.
So the Department of Health then notified Division of Licensing, and I think they did come because I have a feeling they came. I didn't follow up with them, but I thought that would be, I saw the Department of Health giving people violations. I thought that would be a better, better thing to do.
Understood. Rosanna, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, sometimes I know I was afraid of the violations as well. In my particular case, it was the best thing that could have happened, because that very violation is now what's giving my attorney extra ammunition to get this person out. So I know we fear those violations, but sometimes it's the lesser of the two evils. So
that's a good point.
Bear that in mind, because for me, it was the greatest thing that could have happened. She called the town on me. The tenant called the town on me, and the violations that I got, I laugh because I've been laughing since they showed up. It is the absolute reason now that my lawyer can file additional paperwork to get her removed. So just keep that in mind, because
that's a really good point. I don't even, yeah.
But if she's a health hazard,
I have the Airbnb listing. I have, pictures of all the people coming in and out.
Mhm.
The thing is that what's gonna, she's done this in the past. So I actually, through the community, found out that she's been evicted in the past for similar type of behavior. So I ended up with a scam artist, and she knows the system very well, and she knows what she can get away with. It's really. She's savvy with the whole, court system.
It's something we
Your tenant
typically
sounds
call
like
a
mine.
professional tenant. In our,
She's a professional tenant, yeah.
Yeah.
She was away.
Exactly
She
like
went
mine.
away. She went away for a month. She's been away for over a month. She went to a different state, and she just comes back as if nothing. Walks in. I mean, she's been away for a month and a half, and now I see again this crowds of people. Not crowds, but people coming in and out to. So I mean, she's probably going to sign the hardship. And she's going to get away with it. And I'm really nervous. How much longer are we going to deal with this? I mean, the judge ruled that it's the smart moratorium is unconstitutional. Do you know how that would how does that affect us, or how does that help us? I'm just feel like this is going to go on for another few years, that I have to deal with her. And that's what's really scaring me. I don't know how much longer I can handle this. It's really very tough. I mean, I can't even sit in my kitchen with my kids and do homework because of her. As soon as she hears my kids, the pots go banging in the walls. It's a nightmare.
I could definitely hear the pain in your voice. Aria, did you want to add something?
I am so frustrated.
Yeah.
I feel for you. I feel for you, because I have to walk into my house in hiding, making sure I make no noise, that she doesn't know I came in, because as soon as I walk in, because I have a camera inside, that I hear noises that go on and all that. But as soon as I walk in, I hear her jumping, I hear her with the music. So I'm living in hiding in my own place. I turned my phone sound off. I turned everything off. It's like I can't even live in my own place in peace. I'm paying for the mortgage. I'm struggling. I feel for you, but if you say that your family, is at risk or that is at danger, that she's causing things. I thought they allow eviction if the tenant is causing some harm or something, because that's what one lawyer told me, that if she was
So I spoke to
causing
the
me-
lawyer. I spoke to the lawyer and I asked about the nuisance, right? Because if your tenant is a
Yeah,
nuisance,
yeah.
and they told me that this is not considered a nuisance.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
that's what
gonna
they told me. They
interject
told me
here.
only if she breaks the window. If she
Yeah,
breaks
this
the
is not
window or
considered-
she
right.
threatens me.
No,
Yeah.
so the nuisance exception for this is only if they're posing a health or safety hazard to other occupants or tenants. So that she would have to be able to argue that this tenant is somehow going to negatively affect her health or her safety.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
tried to argue that with mine because she kept blowing those breakers and actually posing a fire hazard. And I was told, well, now that the breakers are off, it's not a hazard anymore, so you have to wait. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. It's just crazy.
Can I ask a question here?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really great that we have this forum that where everybody is sharing, and we all really need to share these frustrations. I'm wondering whether it would be possible to have a Zoom like this and invite a legislator onto this Zoom to hear everybody's personal story. I mean,
I did
right
invite
now,
one for today, by the way, but he was unable to attend, but I did invite my legislator.
I think that we need, yeah, I think that we need to have these meetings, and I think that right now we're all preaching to the choir. We all get it, but we need to have the people who matter listen to these stories. I mean, because they're all heartbreaking, every single one of them. And what can we do now as a group to make this go away?
That's a very
That's the
great
question.
point. And the key reason why we're having this at this moment in time is, one, to have a discussion group, to be able to compare our notes and be able to compare our stories and try to understand what everybody's dealing with outside of our own personal issues, and trying to put something together that can give us some kind of semblance of understanding of how to be able to approach this. The second thing that we're doing right now is we're bringing attention to not only our stories, but to the stories of all landlords that are dealing with the same kind of situation, by putting together a stream, recording it, giving people the opportunity to be able to replay it and be able to understand it, and give them a platform in future streams to be able to participate as well. The thing that is more important than anything else is to get people to feel comfortable enough to be able to talk about their situations. One of the biggest problems that we're having from our community is many landlords, housing providers, any way you want to call them. I'm just basically calling them landlords because that's what is most commonly accepted by the public. But truly, what our real roles are housing providers. The biggest issue that many landlords, especially small landlords, are dealing with is being afraid to speak about what's going on with them, but without having any backlash or any kind of retaliation by their tenants or even by the tenant group and communities. So at this point in time, under this eviction moratorium, we basically have had just about anything you could have taken away from you. And I don't feel that there's anything left to lose at this point, because things need to be addressed, they need to be dealt with. And one of the biggest issues that we're having through this whole social platform right now, because this video is going to go up onto our Facebook groups later on, and all the other landlord groups later on as well, and it's going to get shared, but it's also going to get buried in the rankings. We don't get seen as high as the stories of tenants being hurt for some reason. Landlords having problems is not the hot story. It's not the story that people have been gravitating to as far as giving high exposure. And unfortunately, we're basically an afterthought. However, if there is a situation where a tenant has a horror story that they'd like to discuss, that gets number one attention in the media and through the social platforms, and it gets, you know, shared over and over again. You know, the whole cancel red movement has been something that has been truly um, focused on and given a lot of attention to, for better or for worse. And we're by doing what we're doing right now, we're bringing more focus, more attention to our situation. Now, with this whole Texas ruling, the more we bring attention to this and the more discussion we have, and it's going to have to apply pressure. Now, it takes one person at a time, which we have how many people in this group? I believe about 15, 20 people in this group. No, actually, it's less. So we got about 12 people in this group. I think it was more at one point. But it takes us. We have this discussion. We share this discussion with another 10 people each. And it goes so on and so on. I've been using my radio platform to be able to discuss these matters and reach out to a few thousand at a time, and then basically relay it back and replay and get a few more at that point. If everybody does their share as far as being able to have this discussion, we will reach higher in the analytics, because this is super important in this world that we live in right now, dealing with Google analytics and rankings and being able to be seen and heard. The purpose of putting these discussions together and these roundtables together is to get us seen and bring the attention that needs to be brought to the situation. So it takes one session at a time. I'm part of a larger national group that is assembling a big roundtable nationally. I believe in early April. They might be April 1st, April 2nd. We're hoping to get even more attention to that, but I don't want to wait until April 1st, April 2nd to get any kind of traction or any kind of results, as I believe nobody in this room wants to wait until then to get a court hearing or a docket number or get themselves the attention they need. So we're going to keep doing this, and I'm going to do
Thank
my
you.
share, and I'm hoping that everybody does their share as well. We had a nice rally last week. It wasn't a huge turnout, but obviously the weather did hold us back considerably. But the one thing that rally did, it proved that the few people that were there were damaged enough by this situation that they were willing to sit in the freezing cold with snow protesting for their rights. And you didn't see one anti-landlord group out there to fight us, which normally you do get that kind of retaliation coming in whenever you have any kind of protest. They're coming in and fighting you on the other side, but they weren't going to do that because they weren't going to sit there in the cold, because the cold was too much for them, and their conviction was not strong enough to be able to sit there and do an anti-protest. So it was a positive thing. You have to take all the positives and the negatives of every situation that we have. Right now, we have a small group that came together for this stream. Hopefully, the next time we have double the people. Hopefully, the next time after that, we have triple the people, and so on and so on. So, I thank everybody for actually being part of this, sharing your stories, and making sure that you're doing your part to be able to get some results. Now, that being said, I want to tackle just a couple of quick things that are really important in today's news. We did talk about the Texas ruling, which is massive, and this is yet to be seen as far as what the results are going to be at the end of the day. But there's also another story circulating right now that has gotten huge exposure, absolutely huge exposure, and it goes back to what I was saying as far as media going after the story that's the I guess the sexy story, the story that's going to get people that are really involved, and that's that story about the Albany landlord that allegedly, we don't know if it's true or not. You know, we only know what was told for us from the news, that kidnapped his tenants after being completely frustrated with the whole situation of not being paid through this eviction moratorium, and then taking them to the cemetery 30 miles away from the home and abandoning them there. One, there seems like a lot of holes to that story. Like, I don't believe that we have the entire story to that. And two, that's the severe situation of how somebody could snap and break under the pressures of financial hardship, mental hardship, psychological warfare that's been played with them by the government and by the tenants that are not doing the right thing. And I'd like to hear everybody's thoughts on something like that. I'm sure that all of us at one point, it has gone through our minds, like, I'd love to throw this guy over the bridge or over a cliff because they're killing me. They're basically putting me through hell, but we don't do it. But some people don't have those boundaries, or they've lost like all sense of restrictions, moral restrictions. And that's if it's true, because I still don't believe that story is 100% told to us, because it just sounds really weird. You don't hear about somebody kidnapping somebody just to take them and abandon them somewhere else without thinking that it'll ever come back to them. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't compete. Is everybody in this room familiar with this story?
Yeah.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? Has anybody here felt that way before? Got to the point where you felt like you were going to snap from all these heavy mandates that have been put on us? Imran, I see you shaking.
Well, we all wish we could do something. But then it's not worth it.
Absolutely.
Not worth it.
Absolutely. Imran, I see you raising your hand.
So Nick, what happened last week, somebody made a report against my tenant, and they start slamming things on the floor, banging on the doors, on the walls. They start abusing my parents who were living there. I live 2 miles from there, and my car was stuck in snow. If my car was not stuck, I would have gotten arrested that day with the rage I was in and what they were doing there.
Well, let's take your specific situation in itself. You got assaulted by your actual tenants. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the stream about that.
Yeah.
Now, let's say while that was happening, you I guess you ate your spinach right before they attacked you, or whatever the case is, and you were able to actually protect yourself. And not only protect yourself, you ended up beating them or whatever the case was. How would that have been affected? Were they arrested when they attacked you?
So let me just go over that day quickly. June 13th last year, when the guy attacked me, the cops came. I was treated like the villain. They were treated like the victim. I said like 10 words during that whole curse down. They cursed me down like for half an hour straight. I could have said like only 10 words. If you see my body language during that time, you would know I was not in that mood to confront anyone, whether physically or verbally. I took all the abuse. I took the attack. He ran towards me, started throwing punches. The only thing I was doing was videoing. The cops came. The cops went and talked to them separately, talked to me separately. And the cops told them, cops told me to, these people are doing you a favor. They're paying you rent. The governor, the state say they shouldn't be paying rent at this time. They're doing you a favor. I said, hold on. I told the cop, you shouldn't get involved in this. You should get involved with the matter I call you for here, that this guy attacked me. They didn't arrest him, but they kind of give the tenant the idea to stop paying rent from that day, and they stopped paying rent from since June last year. 10 months now, they owe me $22,000, and they're telling me up until today, they're telling me the cops say they shouldn't be paying rent. The cop never arrested them. They continue to abuse me by text. When I go there, they curse me. They curse my parents. The cops don't ever, come and warn them. At some point, I snapped last week, but I was not in that location where my house was. It was going to get really messy if I was there. It was going to escalate.
And that might have been for the better. But a thing on your situation. So they stopped paying you completely, but you mentioned that you're actually still renting from somebody else while you're trying to evict them to move into your own home. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So if that's the case, you've been paying your rent, right?
Yeah, I've been paying rent where I'm living. I'm paying
You're
rent
doing the
here,
right
but
thing.
they're living free by my home. Yeah.
You're doing the right thing by that other person because you could understand as a human being
Yeah.
that the other person has responsibilities. They have issues. And that's what we're trying to help everybody understand, that we're all human beings and we have necessities, and there's certain things that need to be addressed as far as financial expenses to sustain a house and to sustain the housing. And that's not really being addressed by the public. It's not being addressed by the media. In your case, if you ended up prevailing from that fight where you got battered and called the police on, I guarantee you would have ended up being locked up.
Oh, I did not lift my hand. I
Yeah.
took the punches. I did not even lift my hand because I know what would have happened after that. And the thing is, they have two fancy cars, an Infinity and an Acura. They keep buying, the fanciest wheels, $10,000 for a set of wheels. They have the latest gadgets. They have the latest fashion and clothing. They have, they party in my house there on a weekend. They invite guests. You have like 4 or 5 cases of beer bottles, going out in the car in the trash on a weekly basis, but they can't pay rent.
It's absolutely horrible. I just wanted to address something that's in the chat. This one came in from Joseph Hallstrom. My tenant has a roommate that's not on the contract. I don't know if he switched his address over. My tenant refuses to give me his last name, so I'm also worried about the squatter rights. Also, my tenant is on a month-to-month contract and broke the contract by having animals when the contract states no animals, etc. Also, I gave 24-hour notice to inspect the house, and he refused to let us in. I'm also wondering if a text message would also hold up in court because he said it doesn't pay me. He said if he doesn't pay me in full by the end of March, he would move out. And I don't think that would hold up since it's through text message. I'm just curious if anyone has any insight on that. Okay, so let me address the first part, the last part first, because this is really important so everybody understands. And this is my recommendation and my advice to every single landlord out there. And I made a lot of statements about this. You document every single thing that's in correspondence between yourself and the tenant. Every single thing. I'm a really, really big supporter of putting up video cameras anywhere you can if you have that capability. Email, I love, because it gives you direct correspondence back and forth. Text messaging works as well as far as having some kind of documentation of some kind of interaction and communication. And you always want to be very careful of how you address and how you answer anything that's in there. Now, can it be used and hold up in a court? This is an evolving kind of situation. Years ago, emails didn't hold up in courts. Slowly but surely, they started getting submitted and being used. Text messages are on the same route as well. So what might be lawful today to be able to use might not be lawful today to be able to use, might be lawful tomorrow. The same thing, I do suggest this. If you do have certain tenants that have open Facebook profiles or that kind of thing, or whatever the situation is, and they are posting things that are really hurting their case and really giving you a better understanding of what's going on, because this has happened in the past where somebody actually trashed somebody's apartment, posted it like almost bragging on a Facebook post, that landlord caught wind of it and actually recorded everything and took all the screenshots and showed all the captions and brought that into court. Now, will that hold up or will it not hold up? I don't know. But at the same time, anything you have in your hands will be better than worse. Rose, Frank, did you want to add something in on that? I saw you raise your hand.
He needs to put his voice.
You're
He's
muted.
Okay,
There
can
you go. There you go.
Okay. Whenever we deal with these particular tenants, if we have to go into the apartment for any reason, the video recording, or taking pictures, audio recording, every interaction, because it always ends up in an argument. I don't know if they're going to hold up in court because we're waiting for our trial date, but recommendation when you deal with your tenants, record everything. And like Nick said, document.
And then I'll jump in there too, Jessica. If you want, you can call me after too. But as far as squatter rights goes, unfortunately, since your tenant allowed them to move in the eyes of the law in New York State, they're allowed to be there.
Thank you.
Okay.
I've got a question for access. I mean, if the lease states we have to give reasonable access or 24-hour access or whatever the lease states, and they don't allow access, and we have to go into to inspect the property, are we allowed to? An attorney actually told me that we could change the lock as long as we give them the key for the changed lock.
No, I was told you're not allowed to. I was told you're not allowed to change the lock because my tenant never gave me a key, or she changed the lock and put a combination lock and a combination code and never gave it to me. So at one point, somebody said to me, if I brought the police with me in front, I was able to bring a locksmith, change the lock, and give her a key in front of the police. My lawyer told me absolutely not. You could get arrested for changing the lock without permission. So that's what my attorney told me.
Yeah, and I've had a lawyer that okay, no, because our attorney told us that we can. There you go. We have same situation, two different legal opinions.
Yeah.
Confusing.
Quick note on the YouTube stream. Clintus has asked the question. The Supreme Court ruled that eviction moratoriums are unconstitutional. What does that mean for landlords at this moment? What it means is what we said before. Stay tuned. Things are about to change, and they're going to be changing on a daily basis going forward from state to state. So stay tuned on that. We did talk about that a little bit earlier, and we definitely will be talking a lot more about that in the future. That being said, going back to the whole recording mindset and that scenario, I just want to make sure that everybody completely understands. You have to know the limitations of your state's laws, whether you can record people without them knowing, that kind of thing. In New York, it's a one-party state. So if you have video cameras and that kind of thing going on, you should definitely do that. But I would make sure that you document anything, no matter what, because even if it's not admissible in court, it will hold a lot more value than he said, she said. And that's one of the problems that a lot of us landlords and a lot of these situations in the past, as far as court hearings have caused, where it's your word against the other person's word. And if they're more convincing or they have a much deeper type of sob story, you're out of luck. You're really out of luck. So document everything. Anything you could possibly do, please document it, and it will help you. Just wanted to finish the thoughts on that last commentary. As far as the roommate that was not in contract, and You're not aware if the address was switched or not. One, you have to find that out as soon as possible, but you still have the same kind of eviction type of situation now that you're gonna have you would have had previously, because one, you don't have any kind of release from that tenant from that month to month of them actually giving you back keys to the premises. So you're gonna have to do a eviction situation, as far as my knowledge is concerned. No, knows regardless if it's a person that's on the lease or not. But you definitely speak to your attorney and see if they could come up with a better solution. But more than likely, you will be going through the whole process, regardless of the person is in the on the lease or not. The way the state of everything is, and now if you had a situation where you were given permission and keys back from the tenant and it was released. And by the way, when you're doing that, always have a written signature from that person stating that they released the keys from you. And if you had that kind of situation, you might have been able to call the police and say they're trespassing in that kind of situation on the spot. But you know, every story is a little bit different, and you need to be able to address that as it's coming. I want to make sure that everybody got their chance to speak as far as their thoughts on that story with the Albany landlord. Did anybody want to contribute any thoughts about that? No? I know Imran told us his situation on it. But it's just, I'm bringing that to everybody's attention only for the sheer reason that they're glorifying the horror story again, but it's coming from the other aspect of the equation. It's not coming from a neutral point of view. It's coming from putting the worst of the worst situations out there and putting them to the forefront. That this news story has gone basically viral everywhere already. And it's just one isolated situation. It's not as if you have a big group of landlords that are going around kidnapping people, but they made it the focal story. Anybody any thoughts on that?
Nick, it's Rosanna.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I a side of me hopes that quite honestly, that more of these things happen. Mainly because if this is the only thing that will shake up the apple cart and get people to realize that this is a real problem, that we are having a real serious problem here that needs to be addressed. And unfortunately, the news is based, people only pay attention to sensationalism. And I think this landlord has done what a lot of us only can fantasize about doing, but would never do, of course. But we all have those fantasies from time to time. So
I definitely
my
have
hat's
those
off to this guy. My hat's off to this guy. I have to tell you, if I, God forbid, in my life, I woke up and found I had nothing left to lose, I might consider doing something like that as well.
Well, that's the thing. You come to the point of desperation, and that's the biggest story behind this Albany landlord situation altogether. It's desperation. That's the real story. Instead of focusing on the fact that he did something that was illegal, obviously, what brought him to that point, that desperation that brought him to that level, and what was the key reason of bringing that desperation, which was the actual government itself that brought him in this point because of their mandates that they put in. I see a hand up by Imran.
It's like forcing people to live in abusive situations. It's sort of like a domestic violence situation,
Right. Yeah.
You're forced to live with an abuse. Like with an abusive person in your dwelling, and your hands are tied and you can't get them out of the house.
Absolutely.
It's just
Absolutely. I see a hand out by Imran.
Oh, that was sent like 15 minutes ago, but I just want to add something there. Every time our tenants abuse us, I lodge a complaint to the police, and they would not ever take a complaint. They would not make a report, put a report in the system. They said it's a private matter. It's a tenant landlord issue, and that's very frustrating because you can't create a trail. Like there's nothing there, you know. When you go to the courts, like, you know, I have several reports of my tenant abusing me. You just can't, and that would what's making me very frustrated, you know, this built up anger, because like you can't turn to the police, you can't turn to the courts, like there is no recourse, you know.
And the other thing is, it's like the government, I feel, was encouraging people like rent relief, and I feel like the way it was portrayed was like encouraging people not to pay, not so much encouraging, but it was getting so much publicity. Like, you know, if you can't pay your rent, you know, you don't pay your rent. And now with this hardship declaration, it's like I feel like it's being encouraged to apply for it. With every
they're not
court
checking
document.
they're not checking those hardship things, which means anybody can fill it out, because they're not really checking whether it's true or not. As long as the tenant fills it out, then that's it. I don't think it's fair, because anybody can just fill it out and lie, which most of the tenants are making money from unemployment. They're getting the money from the government. It's COVID money. They're getting something from their job, and they're not asking for proof that, you know, that you cannot pay.
Until you go to
They're
apply for rental
just fill it
assistance.
out.
There you go. You hit it right on the head. Until you go to apply for rental assistance, then they're gonna knock you out as far as verifying everything, and make it as difficult as humanly possible to be able to get that done. But that being said, I just wanted to make sure that everybody is diving into these topics and keeping alert on them, and making sure that when you're seeing stories like this that are appearing and you see them in posts, I recommend commenting on them, giving a point of view, trying to get people to understand another perspective in a creative way. Because I've seen a lot of these commentaries, these blogs, these type of posts that end up becoming into some combustible kind of situation where you have tenants and you have landlords really going at it really aggressively. The thing is, that's not really going to accomplish a lot of things. You want to put thoughtful type of commentary down on these kind of things, but always make sure to put commentary down, because rather than actually leaving it, like, you're better off putting something positive or negative down there as far as the commentary, and putting another perspective down, rather than ignoring it completely. Because by ignoring it completely, you're not bringing attention or any focus to it. So the key is to be able to keep things alive in people's conversations. So if you're hearing a story like this and you have something to put as your perspective, make sure you do that. There was a story about a landlord that's in the, I believe in the Bronx, a few weeks ago. It was focused all over through New York Post. And this guy has Alzheimer's disease. He's got a 10-family house that's been in a really bad situation where all the tenants are not paying him rent, and he's getting foreclosure letters coming to him left and right. Now, the community is trying to help him out and that kind of thing, and the Post did give some attention to that, but it disappeared immediately. You know, we need to keep stories like that alive, and help everybody understand that. Look at these people; they're having nightmare situations. They're having everything they worked for torn out of their hands, and it's not right. It can't be a one-sided kind of situation. Everybody needs to understand that we're all human beings, and we need to be able to treat each other all like human beings. And that's been my primary focus and my primary concern as far as making more public and bringing more attention to. But that being said, one of the people that have been tormented and have been going through an entire nightmare of a situation that's quite a bit different from what a lot of other of us are, is Rosanna. Imran, I see a hand up there. I don't know if it's the same hand that you had up before, or if there's something else you wanted to mention. Is there something else you wanted to mention? Because I see the raised hand.
The hand is up there a while now.
Oh, it just won't go down. All right, just want to make sure I'm not ignoring you.
It's stuck.
I'm not ignoring you. So, Rosanna, do you feel comfortable talking a little bit about your situation? I know that a lot of people have heard it,
Sure. Sure.
but it's really very specific, and it's very involved. And I know it's painful for you every time you talk about it. And I don't want to put the pressure on you as far as that's the case. So if you don't feel comfortable,
No,
please let me know.
it's it needs to be heard. I mean, I think the most tragic part about my particular story is that it was this was never a situation of non-payment. And I personally feel that it should have never been lumped in with the rest of the non-payment cases. Not that I don't feel that those landlords should be paid. Absolutely. Everybody deserves their justice. I just don't feel that this particular case or cases like mine should have been wrapped up in all of this. The moratorium did clearly state that the moratorium was specifically for hardship cases, which mine was not. She continues to work. She continues to do whatever she wants. She also smokes in my home. There is no smoking. So everybody that was talking before about, violation of the lease and everything else, she does everything that violates this lease. And she has put us in a very precarious situation as far as safety goes. There is really not much that can be done. A tenant can fill out order to show cause, which there are templates for from the perspective of the tenant. But there are very few things that a landlord could do to try to file the same type of complaint against the tenant. So, having suffering right now, going through treatment, having an incurable cancer. I have a child with learning disabilities and other needs. I've been through hell with him for 2 years, finally started to get him back on track. And now him seeing all of this is causing a tremendous amount of regression, in his ability to succeed and his ability to progress. It has been just terrible. And she, you talk about different things. I have overheard some of her conversations and the things that this woman is capable of. She wants everybody to feel bad for her because she is an older woman. Well, when you hear what she says to people, you would feel very differently towards her. And with that particular tenant, that landlord from Albany, you have to appreciate, like you said, Nick, the level of desperation. And I will tell you straight out, flat out, I have had my moments of rage, not just because of the tenant situation, but because of my health situation. When I had to shave my head not long ago, I don't know that anybody in this chat room here can really understand the impact that has on a person to have to be put into that position. It was not easy. And I had a moment of rage where I was screaming and yelling, not at her, just in general, because it was my only way of coping with what I'm going through. And yet I was accused of making her fearful. This is a woman who I put prescription ointment on her back when she needed it. And now you're telling me that you're fearful? Why? Because that's what works in your favor? It's disgusting. It's just disgusting. And I honestly feel that cases like mine, I know there's another woman who has the same circumstance with her grandma right now, is going through cancer and is trying to get the tenant out so that she can get her grandma the help that she needs. This woman is preventing my family from being here to help me. And it's wrong. It's wrong that this case and cases like mine are lumped in with the rest. This is a holdover case that had nothing to do with COVID.
And it's despicable to me. It's just despicable to do this to another human being. She wants to say that I'm kicking her out, I'm throwing her on the street. She has had 8 months with my help. With my help, I have sent her links, I made phone calls, I offered to drive her. There is nothing that I have not done for her until the relationship absolutely then turned sour. I don't know what else to do, but I need this woman out of my house. I need to get this house in order so that when the time comes, I'm not leaving problems behind for my family.
The
And that's my
policeman told me
story.
that if the policeman who came once a few weeks ago told me that people have been going themselves to Livingston court, to the court landlords have been going and speaking and getting appointments. I don't know. So have you tried that?
I tried to go down to the courthouse. I spoke to a couple of clerks who wouldn't let me anywhere past there. And I'm trying a different way now. I'm trying to see if there is anybody that works in the court, friends of friends, anybody that could try, because I did have a March 3rd date and that should have stuck. But unfortunately, that whole lifting thing that happened on Friday, my date got moved before then. And so now I'm bumped.
Friday?
This past Friday, there was the article that basically said the moratorium was lifted, but that the tenant still has the opportunity to fill out the hardship case.
Oh.
Nick, I don't know if you could interject and give some more information on that when we're through, but I'm trying every which way. And she
I'm
just
sure
wants
you
to.
are, but I remember the police officer telling me that people have been going, not waiting for lawyers because lawyers are not doing, but landlords have been going themselves to Livingston, 141 Livingston, he told me, and they've been getting appointments.
I'm here on Long Island in Nassau County, and the backlog here is ridiculous. So I did go down to the courthouse myself just a couple of weeks ago, and they basically told me the date you get is the date you get. They just don't want to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it.
Rosanna?
So even going here on Livingston, has anybody tried it? That won't help either. I mean, I didn't do it. I didn't go down to Livingston, but does anybody know if going down to Livingston might get you a date?
Well, Livingston is not going to be the end all be all for all, regions that we're dealing with right now. I know that there was about 200 cases that immediately were put on the docket after the 26th, but they're backlogged. They're extremely backlogged. I think anything that could be done, any attempt, can't hurt you. It could only help you. And if going to Livingston could be an option, try it. But we don't know what's going to work and what's not working now, and that's one of the issues that we have as far as being put in limbo and not having all the information given to us, and having a proper organized method of how to be able to file correctly. But just going back to Rosanna for 1 second, I'm really sorry about putting you in a situation of bringing out all those emotions again. And I could see the pain in you, and I'm sure everybody else feels your pain. And my prayers are with you. And I personally having you in mind every time I open up my mouth and do anything I can to advocate for landlords, because you're one of the key people that I think of every time I tend to write a letter, every time I tend to put a post out there, every time I tend to put a video or put a conference like this together. It's not only my situation I think of it, but it's situations like yours that go on the forefront for me. And hopefully somebody that's watching this right now heard your message and understood the pain that you're going through, and actually understands there's a extreme human element to this, that we're not robots, we're not machines, we're not a big corporation that is faceless and we don't have families, because we're literally people just like the tenants that are renting from us. We're people too, and we have the same kind of problems that everybody else does. We have children, we have homes, we have spouses, we got parents that are sick. Um, we have situations where many of us are unemployed as well. We have so many different scenarios that are happening that are so commonly linked with the tenants, yet we're looked at as a completely different animal. I don't know what we're the best way to be able to put it, but the point is, it's stories like yours. It's stories like many of the people that have spoken up, that need to be heard by a lot of the people that are causing these halts and these barriers towards being able to make ourselves whole, to reflect and be able to understand that they need to take a different approach. They're harming people. They're hurting people in a way which is on an epic proportion, a different. It's on a completely different level than I believe that anything else has been seen over the past, decades here in this country. It's insane. And I won't take away anything from the restaurant owners, the small business owners, a lot of the retail places that have been completely hurt during the quarantine times and the lockdown times, because they have their own issues altogether. But the difference between them and us is they could take that key, lock up that door, and say, I'm done. I'm done. They could turn back to one of us as landlords and say, I can't do this anymore. Take your keys back. I can't afford to keep paying these expenses. We don't have that fortune. We own this property. We're responsible for people's welfare and livelihoods. If we can't pay the heat for some tenant that's living in there, whether they're a good person or a bad person, and they get sick or it's something worse even happens, we're responsible, not only financial, forget about the financial point of view, morally, we're responsible because we just harmed that person because we weren't able to sustain. But the problem is we've been halted from any type of way to collect any type of income to pay for these expenses. And this is a major issue. And I don't understand why we as a landlord group, as housing providers, which are extremely essential, not only to the communities, to the economy as well, that why we've been isolated in this way. I can't understand that. And why everybody has to be looked at in a blanket format. Why your story, Rosanna, should be considered the same thing as somebody else that it's just, they're unemployed and they're not paying because they lost they lost their job, and they just they're or they got COVID or whatever the case is. In your case, it's completely blatant. They're actually hurting you and hurting your health in order to save somebody else. And that's a very in my personal opinion, a very dangerous road to go down, where you basically are deciding whose lives are more important.
Right.
One human being is more important than another. And that's basically what's being done. And I'm sorry to everybody that's part of this group and anybody else that's listening to this stream right now if I'm sounding to be very harsh, but it's the cold truth. It's the hard truth that the people and the officials that are making these mandates, these laws right now, they're picking and choosing who is more important than the other, whose lives, whose health is more important than the others. And if anybody disagrees with me about this and anybody has a problem with what I'm saying, please put a comment down. Disagree with me all you want. It's not going to change my opinion. I firmly believe this way. It could be involuntary out of maybe stupidity or ignorance by the lawmakers. Who knows? I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that they're not doing it for nefarious reasons and they're doing it because of ignorance or stupidity. Maybe I'll leave it at that case. But regardless of the reason why they're doing it, they're harming us. They're harming us to benefit somebody else that might not necessarily need that help. And that's what makes it even worse. You're not helping a lot of people that actually need the help. You're helping some people that need the help, but you're also in a blanket helping people do the wrong thing. And that's not right. It's just a horrible situation.
I have it documented, Nick. I had a mini stroke just a week or two before we did the rally, which is why I didn't know if I was going to be able to be there. And I have it documented that it is due in part to the additional stress. And that to me is just sad beyond sad, because that's just another layer added to this disease that I just don't need right now. And somebody does have the power to do something about it, and they're just not.
They just choose not to. It's inhumane. It really is. And again, we're not having this discussion to glorify or to highlight on your situation, because that's not what we're doing. We're making sure that everybody's aware of your situation and understands that you're not the only one that's affected in this way. There's a lot of other people that are affected in this way that are not as vocal, and they're not having their stories told. Thankfully, we have you that has told your story, and you did take that brave effort to go to that rally, which I was there. I was videotaping the whole thing and streaming it. My hands were freezing during the place, and I'm healthy as you could possibly be, and I was having a hard time. How you were holding out there without an issue, and you were probably the most optimistic and most vocal person there. How you were doing that, I give you a lot of credit.
Because it's about all of us. And I have said that to you numerous times. It's not just about my story, it's about everybody. And it's about making sure that the people that should be evicted because of non-payment due to poor behavior, because of situations like mine, because of whatever other situation that is justified, that these people do truly get evicted. The poor behavior that this moratorium has perpetuated is just blatantly disgusting. And it's not just for me. I stand by all of you. And a lot of the things that I do are not just for my cause. They are for the rest. And I truly believe that at some point, something's got to give here, because these people that are being allowed and actually encouraged to take advantage of this system at this point need to be not punished, but it needs to come to an end. It needs to come to an end, and justice needs to be served for all of you people that are out a tremendous amount of money and damages and everything. It's disgusting. It's deplorable.
It is. It absolutely is. And on that note, I in the spirit of not keeping this stream going on very long, unless everybody wants to keep it going, it's another thing. We've been on for maybe close to 2 hours, and some of you have been here from the beginning. Some of you jumped on a little later on. Before we sign off, before we end the stream, I just wanted to ask everybody, do you feel that something like what we just had, something like this video and this stream of a conversation and almost brainstorming and having a round table amongst landlords with different type of things, is productive? Is something that's helpful to you? Is it something that you want us to continue to do, and both a informative in almost a therapeutic type of way to be able to help each other adapt and continue. Is this something that has helped anybody, or is it something that we should rethink?
I think it's
I think it's
very useful.
great, and I agree, and I think that we should invite members of the press to come on future calls, because they'll be the ones that are going to publicize this.
Absolutely. I absolutely
I think
agree.
it's
I think
very
the more media we get involved, the better it will be.
We've got to
I think it's very good.
invite local journalists from all over the state. You know, young journalists that like to get a scoop, that are hungry to get on a story that not a lot of people are covering. And I think that the next meeting, we've all got to call up our local papers and have them come on and listen to this.
Absolutely. And it starts with this. Everybody that's a part of this right now, I'm going to be sharing the link to this video in every single post I possibly can, anywhere I could possibly put out. But at the same time, I need everybody here as well to take it and share it as well, and to send it to the journalists. I'm going to send it in any possible journalist I can myself, any kind of media group I can myself, to get them more involved in a more understanding of what's going on, and let them know that we'd like to have an attendance with one of them or many of them simultaneously. And the more of us that do it, the better the chances that we'll get them to actually take some attention to us. If one person like myself is just sending emails and sending messages and making calls to people over and over again, typically I get ignored. But when they get multiple calls from different people, from different aspects and different backgrounds and different regions, calling them over and over again, that's where it gets some attention. So we need to do that. We need to do the best we can as far as being seen. Rosa, Frank, did you want to say something? I thought I saw a hand up. I'm sorry.
No, I was giving a thumbs up to.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Wholeheartedly.
I think it's a very good idea to have this, because first of all, we get to find out that we are not alone in this. There are other landlords who are in similar or worse situations that we are. We're all trying to help each other here for moral support, advice, and I think it's really good. And I tried speaking to the assembly guy from my area, and they told me they couldn't do anything. So I don't know what else I could do.
Well, what we could do is keep doing it. Whatever we're doing, we have to keep doing it over and over again, and we need to make sure that we don't give up. Because one of the worst things that we could do is just say, okay, we give up and stop. Well, what happens is when you stop, your voices are stop getting heard, and the other side starts getting hurt even more and more, and they get stronger. We need to just keep it up. And as difficult as it sounds, and sometimes frustrated that we're not getting any results, we just need to truck on and keep doing what what we're doing, and not get discouraged. Yeah, I get very frustrated when I do things and I say things and I send people requests to interview with, and they ignore me. I get super frustrated, just like anybody else would. But you know what? We're landlords. We're housing providers. The reason we are who we are, and that we've been able to get to the position and the point we are, is because we have a thicker skin. We become tougher, and we become more able-bodied, and in order to be able to deal with this kind of situation. So don't let no answers get you frustrated. Don't let no results get you frustrated. just keep going after it, because that's the only way we're going to get things done. We just got to keep going after it. And this is not a rah-rah thing. Believe me, I'm not one of these rah-rah guys that are going to sit there and scream with a megaphone, we got to fight, and it means nothing. And then I go home and nothing happens. And then the next day, I get on with the rest of the day. What I'm saying right now, I strongly believe, I believe that we need to really drive things home with everybody as much as we can. And, I kept saying this, that we need to get organized in every possible way we can. And now more than ever, this is, holding true. We need to be seriously organized, and as a economic aspect of the community, and as a part of the workforce, because we are part of the workforce as well, we need to have our collective strength shown as one. And one of the things that we have as a landlord community that we're notorious for is working individually. And I understand that we all got to the point where we needed to, by working out off our own sweat and blood and tears to get where we were, and never really needed to depend on others to get where we are. But in this situation, we need to depend and lean on each other as a community and as a part of the industry to really do what we need to do to get some results. One of us can't do it alone. Not even a small group of us could do it alone. We need to get the numbers on our side. So that being said, I'm done giving my pro landlord speech and my pro fight for our rights speech, because it's not only speech, it's what I feel. But I'm going to give everybody one last chance to give the last words, if anybody has any last words. And I feel that it's a good time to conclude the stream, and we'll do one in the near future as well. And hopefully in the near future, we'll have, like I said, double the people that are attending. And at the same time, I do know that there's many people that have been following on the other platforms as well. So that's a really positive thing, because I'm making sure that whatever platforms we use, we're going to be adding more and more attention going down the line. So this time I had it streaming through a couple different portals. Next time I'm going to make sure that I could have more and more ways to get our word out there. I'm using right now a Zoom paid service, which gives me the abilities to be able to stream in multiple platforms. And don't get me wrong, I'm not necessarily the most technically advanced person, but I'm learning and I'm adapting as I'm going. I'm hoping that very soon I'll have it mastered to be able to stream in just about any different place that we can simultaneously get the attention we need. So, like I said, does anybody have any last words?
Just good luck to everybody.
Good luck to those. My prayers are with everybody as well.
Me too. Thank you, everyone.
And Roseanne, good luck to you too, Rosanna.
Thank you.
And I feel for you. But we will all get over this and dance one day with all of happiness that we got over all these people.
We need to do this again when this is all over, so we can all throw confetti and jump up and down and say hooray. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Celebrate and get drunk, and we have all this over.
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm looking forward to. Yeah.
I anticipate
in the meantime, let's keep hoping. In the meantime, let's not lose hope. And no matter how frustrated we are, there's nothing we can do. We're at the mercy of people.
We are, but we have each other. And that's the most amazing thing that has happened through this whole thing.
Right. That's why I said this group is amazing. I'm glad I joined it. And these meetings, Nick, I think are very, very helpful to all of us.
Yeah. I'm very happy that
it's better than a therapy session.
If that's all, at the end of the day, if that's all it does for us, at least gives us somewhere to be able to vent, so be it.
Right.
There's something therapeutical to that. But
because you could vent to people that don't know what you're going through, but
They
here
don't
we're all
know.
venting to people that we all know what's going on, and we're all going through the same SHIT one way or the other. So it's helpful. I could vent to my kids, I could vent to everybody, but they don't understand what I'm really going through.
And they don't
So
believe it till they hear.
Right,
stories. They
right.
not believe.
they don't what?
They
They
don't
don't what?
believe, he said, they don't believe it. They're like, how could that be
No,
possible? Nobody believes it's
They tell me,
possible.
Ma, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. I speak
Yeah.
to people. It'll be okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. I'm out $30,000 so far. It's not okay.
you have to live it to understand it.
Yeah.
So on that note, I am going to end the meeting. Thank you all. Thank you for
Thank you, Nick.
sharing for
Bye,
for
everyone.
the time. And I'm hoping to do this again sometime soon.
All right. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
I hope I won't have problems logging on the next one.
Yeah, we'll make it easier and easier as every time it goes through.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.